First, let's widen this out a little bit. How would you describe morale among law enforcement across the state right now?
I appreciate the question, Brian. I think law enforcement in Utah has generally pretty high morale. We enjoy the opportunity to work in a state where we get a lot of public support, comparatively speaking. And so generally, I would say morale is fairly high in Utah as opposed to other states that you might compare us to.
But there are some exceptions. Is that correct?
Sure, there's always a push-pull when it comes to law enforcement, and there are many factors that inform morale in any individual agency. Some of those are just the leadership culture, the work environment, the feeling that employees or law enforcement gets as to how much support they have from their administration. And then, of course, the pay scale, how does it compare to neighboring agencies, and things like that can inform what morale looks like in an agency.
In terms of bonuses and recruiting, what do departments like yours, police departments across the state, need to be doing to attract and retain officers?
Well, I don't offer bonuses at my agency, and I don't think there are very many people that offer any like year-end bonuses or anything like that. There are recruiting bonuses that have become quite common across the law enforcement realm, and so that's pretty normal for people to try to entice people to come to another agency by using a recruiting bonus or a signing bonus, you might call it. I don't know how effective they are. I've never engaged in that. I haven't lost any employees to signing bonuses, and so I'm not sure how effective that tool is, but it is something that's commonly used now.
And how big are these signing bonuses?
The largest signing bonuses I've heard of on a local level are like $5,000 to $10,000 signing bonuses. There's a recent effort by ICE to do a $50,000 signing bonus over a 5-year period. That's probably the largest I've seen, but for the most part, it's $5,000 to $10,000 signing bonus. And then secondarily, there's other tools they use like years of service. So they'll give you like a year for year benefit for your years of service for your experience, essentially, and then they'll offer to give you a year for year service up to 10 years so that you would be installed into their pay scale at the 10-year level.
So if you're coming from another department, you've got 10 years of experience, you move to this new department, automatically you have 10 years of experience and you're senior.
Yes, and that's where you would fit in the pay scale, yes.
So that you're getting paid more money. Is that essential to attract officers today?
I think so. I think the years of service, the year for year benefit, is something that's looked at as law enforcement competes for positions pretty widely. Yes.
So the job is not easy. It's never been easy. You've been at it for how long?
Let's see, about 28, almost 29 years. Yeah.
And if you were to describe the difficulty of the job today versus the difficulty when you started, how would you characterize it?
The difficulty in law enforcement often comes down to public perception, and sometimes we're our own best friends, sometimes we're our own worst enemies, but at the end of the day, the community needs to trust their law enforcement and have a lot of public trust for us. And if they don't, then it becomes a very difficult job. And that's when I said that Utah is a good place to work. Generally, we are afforded that level of respect and public trust for the most part. But nationwide, as different issues happen and responses in the media and other things happen, it does impact us. And it even impacts us in Utah. And where we see the issue is with recruiting of new members into our organizations and into our field of work. And that's where we need to focus our efforts. We need to be able to recruit high school kids and college graduates to come into the field of law enforcement, and so that we're not just competing for the same revolving door of the same work staff that's out there, the workforce that's out there.
Is there poaching that's going on from one department to the next when it comes to officers?
I mean, I think you would hear people say they feel like they have deputies or police officers being poached from agency to agency. At the end of the day, it's the responsibility of the sheriff or police chief to create a culture and a morale. The level of equipment that's purchased, the level of pay scale that exists, that their staff wants to stay in their agency. And so, poaching's an interesting thing because while it doesn't feel good to have members of our offices or agencies poached, it really causes some self-reflection on what can I do to create a better work environment here so that that doesn't happen.
In the places where morale could be better, and you said there are departments, there are offices like that. What is the fix? What is the worst problem, and how do you correct it?
Well, I think that the biggest morale booster is for our workforce to feel like their administration supports them, and that takes on a number of different complexities. County commissioners and city council members are in a difficult position as well because they're competing with state agencies. For example, the state Utah Patrol has done some major increases. The Department of Corrections has done some major increases in pay over the last few years, and so the balance of trying to spend taxpayer dollars wisely, but also create an environment where the service can be provided without high turnover is a tricky one. And so I think that's a big part of it. So it's not just chiefs and sheriffs; it's also the elected officials that are setting budget levels and what kind of equipment can we purchase for our staff? Do they really feel like they're being taken care of and their safety is viewed as very important? Things like that. So it's a number of things. It's kind of a complex thing to be able to get to a level of morale that's high and maintain that. But it all comes down to how secure does that employee feel, and do they feel like their bosses are trying their dead level best to take care of them across the board?
Officers want to feel like administrators, the community has their back.
Yes.
That's really the bottom line. And when morale breaks down, that is the primary, in your view, is that the primary reason?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big factor. If you have a confident boss that's willing to stick up for you when that's the right thing to do, it means a lot to a deputy sheriff or a police officer. If not, then you don't feel like someone has your back or that you're being taken care of. And that could happen on an administrative level, or like you said, on a community level. And that's a difficult place to work if you work for a community that doesn't really have your back. Like I said before, in Utah, generally speaking, we enjoy widespread support from our communities.
This issue about ICE and the $50,000, what do you make of that?
I think it's I'm not particularly fond of the way they went about that. I've been on the record of saying that before. It hasn't been very effective. We've done some polling among sheriffs. I don't know that there's a single deputy sheriff that's taken that option in the state of Utah, at least. So, it's kind of a lot to do about nothing in Utah so far. So I don't have a major opinion on it. I didn't think it was a great way to do business, but.
But you're not a big fan of recruiting bonuses anyway. You said you don't use them.
I don't use them. I think there's better ways to take care of your employees and try to keep them engaged and keep morale high. Yes.
Okay. So overall, good morale generally, but there are cases, there are departments that are suffering from low morale too.
Yeah, I think that's right. And that's probably the age-old question, and that's probably always going to be the case as things ebb and flow in law enforcement.
How tough is it to get somebody to take the job?
Well, when I hired on 29 years ago, I tested for one position against 52 candidates. And today, if I was to open a deputy sheriff position here, I would probably get 10 candidates, maybe 6 candidates that were viable candidates for one position. So that kind of shows you how difficult it is to find people that can do the job. And then also, I talk to kids at high schools and things like that. It's not easy to be able to pass background checks and psychological evaluations. It takes us a couple months to put somebody through the testing process to see if they are someone that should enjoy a high level of public trust and work in the law enforcement field. Because if you can't trust your cops, who can you trust? So we have to do a really good job in hiring to make sure we're picking up people that can be trusted by the public, and that can be difficult. It's a tough road to get to the end of.
So it's hard for people to meet the criteria, for potential
Yes.
applicants to meet the criteria. But is it also hard to convince people that, hey, this is a job you want to do?
Yeah, I think we've done a better job at that in the last several years. There's many sheriffs, at least, that are and police chiefs that have engaged in schools and have developed really solid quality relationships with students that get a different look at law enforcement, get a different look at law enforcement officers, and develop a bit of a relationship, realize they're not these big scary people that they maybe once thought they were, that they're just humans like everyone else. And those efforts have proven to be successful. And really that's, in my opinion, as the president of the Sheriff's Association, I think that's our focus at the association level is, let's stop focusing on taking each other's employees. Let's really focus on trying to get some new blood into the system. There was a statistic, I don't remember exactly what it was a while back, but of the candidates that were at post, something like 80% of them were either children or grandchildren of a law enforcement officer that had retired in the line of duty. We've got to broaden that scope a little bit. We've got to make law enforcement something that kids want to get into and engage in. Smart kids that can do a great job and communicate well.
Sheriff, thank you for your time. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you,
Yeah.
Brian.